Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Everyone wants something for free, and that they want you to allow them to use space that they refuse to pay for is ridiculous. It's their own fault that they got other people involved and made this untenable for you. Don't carry any feelings about it, OP. Walk away with your profit and enjoy your new life. Here we go. Former manager made my life hell, and I finally got her fired. I was desperate to join a new job after my husband and I were both laid off last year. When I was offered a new role, I knew it would be a step down from what I was doing, but the manager and the team seemed great, and that part has not changed. However, since my manager, Gary, was so busy, he basically offloaded me to another manager, Jane. I was supposed to be the connection point between my team and Jane, but it quickly became Jane micromanaging me. She would ask me to work through lunch, move, or cancel vacation days, call at 11 p.m. on weekends, and order me around on phone calls. She also made nasty comments about my weight and said I was big for my race. The list of personal slights so long that it filled 3 pages. I would talk back to her, and she didn't like that, and that provoked her more. I only stayed because we needed to pay the bills. Finally, I had a mental breakdown on a Friday after she yelled at me for something trivial about scheduling a meeting without including someone from her team who I didn't know about. I was dealing with a family tragedy and couldn't take it anymore. I told Gary about the situation with Jane, and he was sympathetic, but not at all surprised considering half her team quit. He immediately offered to move me to a different team under him. I was thrilled. Well, turns out, going to the new team didn't help. Jane continued to order me around from afar. When I ignored her emails, she came to my desk one day and started loudly talking about how I'm not qualified for this role. Gary overheard and finally told her off, but the verbal abuse did not stop. After 2 months there, I abruptly wrote my resignation letter and stapled the list of Jane's offensive comments and CC'd everyone. Gary offered a bunch of accommodations to try and keep me, but seeing how she was still provoking from afar, I said the only way for me to stay would be for her to go, and he didn't have the authority to let her go. Her manager was in a different country, and despite several HR complaints from at least 5 people, nothing was done. So I left loudly and without shame, telling everyone exactly why I was leaving. Times were very bad for 3 months. There were nights we would eat slices of bread just so we could pay the mortgage and emergency expenses from a health crisis and a funeral. Even after he found a job, we were still catching up on bills and still are. I spent months applying to 5 to 10 roles per day, sometimes over 20. Last month, I saw a public memo about a big shot from a former company joining the company I just left. I used to work with this guy closely and texted him congratulations, let me know if you need any insights on the new place. We had a quick call where I told him some ins and outs, where I thought they could innovate. After this call, he asked me to join the team as his chief of staff. I accepted. Imagine Jane's shock when we had our first all-hands call. All the VPs and above were asked to welcome the new Big Shot in a giant conference room. In Big Shot's speech, he breezed over that I'll be his chief of staff, along with a few key names. I now sat 2 levels above Jane, and apparently within the 3 months I was not there, the other half of her team turned over. Every single person left. Gary was excited for me and said all nice things. However, Jane took the classless route and sent Big Shot an email about how I'm an unqualified idiot and that I used to work for her, how I tried to get her fired, and that she suspects I lied to get ahead. She didn't even try to fake nice. Big Shot forwarded me her email and asked what this was about. I was so nervous and excited. Little did Jane know I was a director at Big Shot's competitor company and was already a level above her, so 2 levels isn't a big leap, and I worked with him for 5 years. I had an hour call with Big Shot and told him she was bad for the company culture and was a nasty person in general, but the evidence he needed was Gary confirming that her whole team is turned over, my prior resignation letter, which was still sitting on my desktop when I logged in upon return, and a few other nasty emails she sent her recent staff, which they were happy to share with us. Big Shot fired Jane on Friday. And our second story. You want to pay the postage? Okay. So I recently started working at a new job at a Canadian retail company that has online services. My job is mainly to pick items that were ordered online from the store aisles or from our warehouse, arrange for them to be picked up, and have them ready to go by a set time every day. We average about 5 to 6 items per day, most going to places that are between a half-hour to a 2-hour drive distance, depending on the direction it goes, as other retail stores can cover the same area better than we can. Now, I live in a smallish city, and the company that picks up the online purchases, with a lack of a local terminal, have to go to the capital to their sorting site before traveling to their destination. This means a minimum of 2 days before it gets to a customer, but could be up to a week depending on delays. So we reach out to try and convince customers that live locally to pick up their purchases. Usually once they realize that it would take 20 minutes to get their item and without charging the extra cost of delivery, most are willing to pick their items up. Now, of course, there are exceptions. I'm not talking about the elderly and physically disabled who can't make such a trip. We implemented at our store a delivery exemption initiative for these people. We deliver it to them for free. No, we're talking about this one customer. He lives literally down the street from the store, as in a 3-minute drive down the street. As in, we have employees who walk past his house, and he ordered not 1, not 2, but 3 items, put just over $500 on his credit card for this, and one of them shipped out to him via the delivery company. We saw immediately that it would cost him almost half on top of what he's paying for the items to ship these. I forgot to mention that all postage is paid by the customer. So I called the customer, explaining where his purchases were coming from, the extra cost and time of delivering these through the company, and that he could save both if he came to pick up the items he ordered. His response: "I've ordered these online and I expect that they will be sent." I clearly try to explain that his items were coming from down the street, not from a store elsewhere in the province. His response: "I don't care where they come from. I expect my online order to be delivered as you would with anyone else." Okay, will do. After hanging up, we did as asked. I let the manager know about this order and his instructions, which he laughs at and shrugs his shoulders. We picked his items, scheduled a delivery for said items, had all 3 picked up. Delivery guy looks at the delivery address, looks at me, and gives a WTF look. I explain that he wanted it shipped like all other online deliveries. He laughs, shakes his head, and takes the items. So the next couple days, I track the order as it travels over 2 hours to the sorting facility, stays overnight, is on the truck for delivery, and finally is signed by the guy. Not an hour later, he's at the store demanding the cost of his delivery back. Manager explains that we tried to help him, but in his own words, shipped his online order as we would anything else. Edit. And since it might have been buried below, I'll explain more about what he and we did. When a customer orders an item online, they're offered a regular and an express option. Express is much faster but has a higher charge than regular deliveries. Depending on the size and weight, it can cost anywhere from 50% to 200% more for express delivery. He chose express as his option, and we obliged. And his items were on the heavy end of the spectrum. And our last story. Neighbor is crazy pretending to be an HOA president. We just moved into a duplex, and our Karen neighbor is an actual nutcase. We're friends with the landlord's daughter, and we actually have discussed how crazy this woman is, and for convenience, I'll refer to her as the Karen because she must be patient zero of this Karen epidemic. We've discussed how the Karen has got herself into some legal trouble with the past owner and past tenant. We don't know the exact details, which we plan on trying to get, but don't know if we can get much about the past tenant, as they basically zipped off across the country once they realized Karen will not stop. But we know that the past owner sued her, and that the past tenant had a restraining order against her for assault, and she got arrested shortly for not giving a rat's butt about the order and still harassing them. We thought we knew what we were getting into moving into the duplex. 2 days before the move, we Amazoned a package over, specifically one that just contained window films and a curtain rod, as we have no blinds, curtains of any sort in the rental, and wanted to install them as soon as we moved in. We knew how crazy the Karen was and didn't want to put our real name in it, which I realized might have been a bad decision, and thought it'd be funny to put a Succession reference in and address it to Mo Lester. It was delivered a few hours before we arrived to move, and Amazon even took a photo of the package delivered. When we arrived yesterday, it was gone. We're pretty sure the Karen stole it, but we don't have any footage, although she does have the cameras set up all around the property for her own self. which in itself alone is kind of invasive and creepy. As we were moving yesterday, which was so stressful and I was running on 2 hours of sleep, she just comes on over and practically demands that we talk to her by saying she wanted to get to know us and quickly go over the rules of occupying our side of the duplex. My husband didn't even want to really entertain her and said, "We might have a few minutes," but she said, "Well, this is going to take more than a few minutes, and I am the president of the HOA committee." She was immediately extremely confrontational, and it was as if we were being interrogated when she asked our names and even wanted us to show our faces as we were wearing face masks. We still wear our face masks to avoid COVID. She started yapping about how we may only do modifications to the rental inside as she owns the entire property outside, no bright or patterned curtains or blinds as it's inconsistent with the aesthetic, and even claims she has full access to our basement, which is not true. Our landlord's daughter was saying the HOA bylaws state that the outside property is not 50-50 and nobody owns more or less than the other when it comes to the outside. We simply share it. She was just spitting out lies after lies and even claiming that our landlord is basically nasty and created so many problems for her. Funnily enough, the problems she stated our landlord gave her are the problems she gave our landlord and her daughter. She also gave us these 2 supposed legal documents she wanted to sign, like us understanding the rules of the HOA and the property and our application for renting this property. This document says we need to pay her a few fees, such as the application fee, non-refundable $100 per person, pet fees, water fee, even though our landlord has been paying the water bill and she hasn't, etc. We don't want her to continuously harass us, and we don't want to pay her for such fees. She pretends to be the president of the HOA and gives our landlord and her daughter fake legal papers that state they need to pay her, so we're expecting she will hand some over to us as well. We really don't want to go through all the fighting her with it, not resulting in anything and just harassing us our entire lease. Our landlord's daughter said she's basically in hiding to avoid the process server that's been trying to serve her, so she was surprised she came out of her cave to talk to us. Update. We're wondering if there's anything we can do to stop her in the future from giving us legal documents that have fake fees and rules, and how to tell her we can actually use the lawn and backyard. We also have a recording of the entire conversation we had yesterday for future reference, should we proceed anything legal with her ourselves. We already have the contact info of the previous owner who previously sued her, and we will ask what the full case against her is of our landlord and her daughter. Update 2. The past owner's case has progressed. We gave information from our side, and now Karen has calmed down and is not providing inconvenience. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.